Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast that discusses the challenges of staying healthy, present, and fulfilled in this modern, fast paced world. I'm Tiffany Sims, your Disney loving nutritionist and high performance coach. I love talking about food, exercise, and getting the most out of life.
And I'm Chelsea Scroggins, your yoga instructor and life coach. And I enjoy talking about all things that enhance the life. And today, I want to delve into stress and what that does to the mind, to the body, and the soul. And really what it does to our environment, our daily lives, and everybody around us. So let's talk about it.
Yes.
What causes you stress? Like what stresses you out, Tiffany? I just want to know.
Currently,
Yes. Let's talk about current.
I would say it's such a double-edged sword because in one area, like business and work is a stress just because I want so much more out of it. And I know that there's so much that I can grow into. And so, like, that is a stress because it's not quite there yet. But then at the same time, it's also equally as fulfilling. When I think
Right.
about stress, though, Chelsea, I think about when I worked in corporate and I worked for an energy company and I was working like 12, 14-hour days, and I'd show up to work at 7 a.m. and not know what time I was getting off work because I could end up working a 14-hour day. And so it was stressing me out to no end, not being able to like feel confident when I made plans with my family or my friends because like I couldn't afford to lose my job. Like I couldn't just leave when stuff was hitting the fan. And so that was super stressful, super stressful.
I like how in the beginning of this conversation, you brought up the fact of like good stress. And then at the end, you brought up bad stress. And I think that that is actually a good topic to talk about. There is such thing as good stress, stress that'll push you to a limit to where you need to go. But there's stuff or there's like too much stress and very bad stress, and eventually it becomes very toxic to the body and the mind and the soul. That there is a positive stress that can help the body, mind, and soul, right? So it's kind of a balance.
I think it comes down to purpose and fulfillment now that I'm thinking about it. Like, your body processes that positive, like emotional, purpose-filled stress differently and with a different like energy behind it than it does with the stress that just sucks the life out of you.
Yeah, actually funny that you say that. I actually shared a reel on my Instagram page, and it says, stress is doing something that you absolutely despise and like you feel that you have to do it. And purpose is the same thing, but it's doing something you love. And so so it's purpose versus stress, right? So you could be doing, and you could do your purpose for hours and then not even bother you, but you're doing something you absolutely hate for 12 hours. You're stressed out the whole time.
Yes. You can do it for like 3 hours and be completely done. Whereas you can be stressed working on something that like fills your soul and that like you feel so much value and purpose and so aligned with it that you can work 18 hours and still feel like you can go run a marathon when you like they walk away.
And I love that. I love that so much. And that's how I feel about my business. Honestly, that's how I feel about this podcast all the time. Like that's how I feel about everything that we're doing in the moment right now for our business and for our community. That's how I feel. And then my day job, I do get stressed with that, but I don't let it consume me. I use the tools that I have, and it's definitely a stepping stool in the right direction. Or stone, not stool.
You mentioned tools. What tools do you have that you use that are helpful for you?
So there's different breath techniques that I'll do throughout the day, but I make sure to do a daily morning practice. And I also make sure to align with my business goals for myself and what I want to do. So if I get those small wins every single day, it alleviates a lot of my stress. But I do, like I said, I do my daily practice. So I'll do an actual yoga movement. I'll do some breath work. I read. And then one thing I do is I sing and I dance and I just have a little bit of fun. I feel like having some fun from time to time, actually, a lot of the time we need to have more fun, alleviates a lot of stress. And sometimes, here's another tip that I do too. I'll literally go to the bathroom when I'm highly stressed and I'll just like shake it out. Like seriously, just allow myself to bounce, like start from the feet and just shake it out. And when I and and when I do that, I honestly just, I mean, it alleviates so much stress. And then I take a deep breath and I go back out. I'm like, hey, I'm back.
Oh my God, Chelsea, you are going to absolutely love the conference we're going to next week. Like
I'm so
you are
excited.
so aligned. Like it was meant to be. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube and you see me making weird faces, I live near a Navy base and they're flying. So like they shake my house when the jets fly overhead sometimes. And so I was like making a weird face. But
And you can
anyway,
hear my dogs in the background, by the way.
my life.
That's my big pup.
I love that you said have fun. Lexi and I, and for the listeners who don't know, Lexi is my like 10, 12 pound little Chihuahua rescue dog. We'll have dance parties because she
I
gets
love
antsy.
that.
I work from home, you know, and so if I've been sitting here too long, she needs attention. She likes to play. And so
Oh
like
yeah.
we'll have a dance party in the living room and I'll like throw her toy around and she'll like do this little
Aw.
your little puppy dance and I just rock out. And it brings such joy into my body. And she
Yes.
loves it too, which makes me happy because I love her. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes. Yes. You know, my little one, she'll dance a lot, but the big one, he doesn't really dance, but he gets excited. So he'll be like, you can tell he's like dancing with his mouth, or he like starts breathing heavy, but he's super pumped and excited. But and his tail will be wagging. So I love that. But that's what I do. I alleviate my stress by that way. And also another thing, I do acupuncture, I do chiropractic, I do massage. And so I just
on
bring
acupuncture.
those in, once a week or once every 2 weeks and just try to.
I am scared of needles. Not
So
scared of
was I.
scared of needles per se, but I don't know. There's a piece of me who's like, that sounds really cool and really fun, and I think that would be great. And then there's another piece of me who's like, you really want to just go lay there and have someone like tap little pins into your face and into your body? Like, why are you so weird? Like,
The funny thing is I'm so afraid of needles. Like, I mean, when they take your blood, like I almost passed out. But the cool thing is the piece of that needle is like a piece of your hair follicle. So small. And yes, sometimes you'll feel when they put it in, like you'll feel that, ooh, the sting. It's like this, ooh, shoot. And then it goes away immediately.
do you have any
But
tattoos?
I do. I have
Is
one
that how
tattoo
does
on
it
my lower back.
How does it compare to tattoo pain? Like the needle of a tattoo gun?
So you know how, or do you have tattoos?
Yeah, I do. I have two.
So you know that burning sensation. The tattoo I feel like was a burning sensation. It was like this hot burning sensation. It's none of that. It's way less painful than and you're not, like I said, you're not going to feel any pain in some points. It'll be a very tender spot that maybe you needed to work on. And I learned the points. So say you're very angry that week or whatever have you, or maybe you're sad when she or he puts the needle in that spot, it might be like, ooh, and then it goes away instantly. So it's nothing like a tattoo. You can't even compare it.
Is
It's
it more like
absolutely
a
nothing
prick?
like a tattoo.
Is it
Yes,
more
it's
like a
more like a
prick?
prick. Yes, it's more like a prick. So it's like if you've ever got yourself with a tack, but that's even more painful, I'm gonna say. But like it's
Okay.
more like a prick of that. It's like, oh, ooh, got me. You know what I mean? But it's not, it's a good pain. That's just what I'll say. You know how like you get a massage, if you've ever gotten a massage and they're like hitting that tender area and you're like, ooh, that hurts, but it feels good. Like keep doing that. That's kind of what it is.
All
So,
right.
but it'll be in that like they'll pin that spot and then it's that ooh, and then it goes away. It's like instant away.
I love that. So
It's
for our
incredible.
listeners, have you
Mhm.
ever tried acupuncture and what were your thoughts? And if you haven't, why not? I just want to hear. So comment wherever you're listening to. I want you to leave a comment in the comment section. Let us know your experience. Because maybe I need to put this on my to-do list.
You definitely do. And also, real quick, comment below what it is you do to alleviate your stress. So
Oh yeah.
we can maybe get some more tips and tools in our pocket, and
Yeah.
everybody else who's listening can get that as well. But real quick, did you know that stress, depending on what you're stressed about, will affect a certain part of your body? So
Yes.
for instance, you did, okay. So for instance, like if you're stressed about money, your lower back will start bothering you, which is so incredible because if you and pay attention to this. So just think like, ooh, my lower back, and think of what you're stressed about. And I know a lot of body parts correlate with different stress. And if you want to know specific what you're hurting right now, you want to comment below and be like, what does it mean when my hip hurts? And I'll let you know that. But like mid back, for instance, if you're feeling guilt, your mid back will bother you.
And if
And
you're
the upper back,
like,
if you're not getting enough emotional support. So if you feel like you're not getting enough emotional support from whoever it is that you need that support from, your upper back will start to bother you.
that's where I carry a lot of my stress actually, is in like my lat, shoulder blade, neck area. But I was the other thing that I noticed for me, especially when I'm struggling to articulate myself or find my voice in certain situations, my throat chakra will completely like close up. I feel like I have laryngitis or like I'm getting sick. And as soon as I say my piece, make my peace with whatever it is, instantaneously gone. And I know
Yeah,
that sounds woo woo to some of you, because you're like, chakras sounds so new age, old age country or crunchy and woo woo, but it's like
it's real.
what you believe, but it's a real thing.
It's a real thing. And the body is like made of energies, and that's all the chakras are. They're just energies. So if it's blocked, then that energy is blocked and all the energy is going around it instead of through it. So it's not, your energy is not coming in and going out perfectly. It's like all this mixed of, going around, beating around that energy block. So that is beautiful. But the neck is seeing somebody else's side of view. So when your neck is bothering you, it's because you're having a hard time seeing somebody else's point of view. And
Interesting.
I have a hard time with that sometimes. Like when I'm used to doing something a certain way and I've been doing it that way, and then somebody comes in and they're like, well, we could do it this way. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And I start tensing up. But then I have to remind myself there is several different ways to do one solution. It's not one way or the highway. Like we all learn differently. So there's, what the way you get the solution is going to be a different way than I get the solution. And sometimes we're going to do it the same, which is awesome. But you just have to remember that. But just find yourself, if you're resisting, if you're in an argument with your spouse or whatever, and you just find yourself like a little tense in the neck, it's probably because you're not seeing their point of view.
That's great. And you just slightly off topic, but so for our listeners, I spent this last week, mentioned in the opening, like I'm a high performance coach. And so I spent this last week in recertification class to keep my certification up to date. And one of the things about when you're coaching someone, and I think it's a really great life lesson, is that, as I'm sitting there and I'm in the coaching session, my job isn't to make other mini me's and to make people see life the way I see it. My job is to help guide them to the right answer for them and for their life. And I think that if we approach our romantic and our friendly and our social relationships that same way, I think that we probably would have less of that stress and less of that angst and that less of that like wanting to strangle someone for not getting it. But like just
Absolutely.
taking that step back and being able to appreciate someone else's point of view and then
Yeah.
merging them together to figure out. And I think
Yes.
that would alleviate so much stress in so many just relationships in general.
It's true. And I feel like also, with that being said, if we stop expecting people to be exactly how we are, will alleviate the stress, because what we are good at, so what I am good at, you're not going to be good at. What you're good at, I'm not going to be good at. And for me to expect you to be exactly like I am, or, to respond to things like I do, is just insanity. It's going to drive my stress cortisol through the roof, because my expectations are not realistic. You know what I mean? And so just to honor people who they are, where they are, and how they are is going to alleviate your stress. And to
And
do
for
that, you got to open your perceptual lens.
gotta
And in
be
order to
open.
open your perceptual lens, you have to do some sort of inner work. Let's be honest, you have to do that inner work in order to open your lens up and to see the world for what it is instead of what you want it to be.
And for those listeners who don't know, cortisol is a hormone in your body that is manufactured and released in response to stress. And it's one of those fight or flight hormones. And
Mhm.
so stress is a fight or flight response. When
Absolutely.
we have high levels of cortisol raging through our bodies, we're more likely to hold on and store fat and make poor choices in food in order to suppress that cortisol production and try to re-regulate the body. And so if you're that person who's just running around like with their hair on fire, hating everyone and stressed to the high heavens, like we need to work on bringing you back down to a state of calm, because
Yeah.
my job and energy was very high stress, high stakes. But even in those crisis situations, you can still be high in a crisis situation and stay calm and not be stressed. Like you have
How
to
did
hold,
you do that? What
um
what were
for,
some of the tools you did?
for me, okay, that's a really great question.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about it in a while, actually. So this is really good for me. It reminded me now in this present person that I am, like some things to do. So the first thing that really helped me was one, identify what the outcome we needed to work for was. So what are we trying to solve? If I
That's
know where
awesome.
we're going, then I'm not getting
Direction.
spun up by all the little like dumpster fires that are popping up everywhere, because I
Yes.
can manage that. Two, something as simple as, and if you are on YouTube, you can see me doing this. My feet are planted firmly into the ground right now. Not hard, but they're there. And I'm sitting up in my body. And it sounds so silly, but like 3 deep breaths with closing
Yeah.
your eyes for a second recenters and realigns you. And all of a sudden, you can think clearly. So even
Yep.
though big things are happening with big consequences if they don't go right, if you recenter yourself and reground yourself in that moment that you're starting to feel your anxiety climb or starting to get yourself flustered and worked up
Mhm.
and like just angry and angsty, and you just take a minute to take like 3 to 10 breaths while grounding into the ground, your whole body sinks back in, and then all of a sudden you're a powerhouse.
Can I add to that real quick?
Yeah.
Another great tool is if you're standing, so say you don't have a seat to sit in, and actually maybe you just do this, but you would stand up, you would plant the feet like you said, and then you can bend the knees just slightly. It's like a slight bend to the knees. So you're going to feel anchored from the feet all the way to the hips, and then you're going to feel like you're floating from the hips up to the head. And that right there is a yielded position. It'll automatically regulate your breath without you trying. So you'll notice that if you're tense and you're stressed, right? So your knees will most likely be locked without you even realizing it, or you'll even do some, I don't know, you'll just be stiff. Your muscles will be stiff. But that moment that you realize that and you plant those feet, bend those knees slightly, and just your lungs will automatically regulate. It's amazing. And it's called yielded. In yoga, they call it yielded. So then you're protecting your peace, your body, your mind, and your soul at that moment. You're just being yielded, protecting yourself from all the chaos that's around you. And then you're regulating your cortisol level without
And I
even
find
knowing
it
it
so funny.
forever.
You're taking me back to that like high stress, surrounded by very dominant, controlling individuals. And
Mhm.
so many people I used to work with would think that what we're talking about right now is like woo woo and we don't have time for that. And it used to boggle my brain because it's like, how do you not have time to recenter yourself so that your team can function? Because if you as
Yes,
a leader are high strung and stressed and unable to regulate your own emotions, how do you expect your team to perform? Like
they can't. I
they
mean,
can't.
they're gonna be they feed off of that energy.
And
So
so
it's always good to recenter yourself, and it's good to center yourself in the morning before you even go through this.
I
And
know a lot
sometimes you
of
might even have
mamas,
to say affirmations or like mantras to yourself.
and I know a lot of mamas do this during the day too, especially our stay-at-home mamas.
Hmm.
They, a toddler is its own human trying to figure out all of its emotions and where it fits in
That's
this
true.
world and has lots of its own forming opinions. It's why mamas go in, they don't know they're doing this, but when they go in the bathroom to like cry for a second, it's them taking that second and that breath to either cry it out, to breathe, to like have a moment because they're recentering themselves to bring their stress levels back down.
And to bring that to light too, tears are really good. Crying is good. And this is for the men as well. I just had to say that because a lot of men just don't cry. But if you can allow that alleviates your liver when you're stressed. Your liver is most likely inflamed. Same with your gallbladder and your spleen. Most likely those three organs are inflamed or like, working their hardest. And then if you cry, it alleviates that tension in your liver. It's
I know that
amazing.
I'm
So tears are
always
a positive thing.
I know that after a good cry, I am like so clear-headed.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like I have
Yeah.
the best ideas. It's like
Yep.
you get so worked up and the world is ending and then you can't do like no matter how hard you try, like your emotions are just escaping through your
Yes.
tear ducts. And then when you're
Yes.
done, you're like, "Oh, I'm good."
Yes. Yes, because it's a way of releasing. It's a way of releasing. And, some people release by running, like some people release by, sitting down and breathing, and some people release by crying, and some people do all of it. And I advise you to do all of it.
You know, we spent
Really do it all.
We spent a lot of today talking about like the external stresses as we go throughout the day. And I think that we probably should take a podcast episode and talk about the internal stress. I know
Mhm.
that in my line of work, a lot of the women I work with, they don't realize that they're carrying stress at the cellular level from either years of dieting, from past traumas, from like
Yes.
the last decade of just hustling, and
Yes.
so that they're like, I don't understand why I'm not making progress when I follow
It's
this diet plan
trapped.
or I start this exercise program. Like I'm not getting results. And it's because the cells, the
Yep.
mitochondria in their body are so stressed out that they
Yep.
have to like completely reset and heal their nervous system
It's
to like
true.
find a new baseline.
It's true. Yep, it's
Yeah.
trapped in the body. And there is tools, and I can teach you some of those tools to alleviate some of that stress. So if you're interested, please reach out or comment below and I will give you some tools. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This
I
this
love
is
that.
real. Yeah, we should definitely do that sometime, talk about that because I think it's so important and it's not talked about enough. We hold everything in and not, we're just like, no, I'm fine.
I'm
But are
good.
you really? I'm
I'm
good.
doing all these things and
How you
nothing's
doing? Oh, I'm
working.
great.
And then you
I'm
beat
great.
yourself
This is
up.
fantastic. Huh?
And then you're beating yourself up because you're like, I feel like I'm doing all the things and I'm not making progress. I must just suck. And that's not true. It's that we
Very
just have to get your insides to rebalance and match your outsides. And speaking of future podcasts and topics, if you're something that you've really been interested in or you've been like frustrated by as you're scrolling social media, just something you want to talk about or hear our perspective on, please leave that in the comments as well. We would love to cater our podcast towards like your needs, what you need to talk about, what you need to hear about and learn about. And so always feel free to leave suggestions.
Yes, absolutely. We
Anything
are
else?
your friends and we love that you're here. And we want to thank you for listening every single week. And just thank you for being you and continuing to show up every single time.
Absolutely. And with that, Two Humans Talking is a wrap. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.